Something that should be the easiest in the world should be communicating. Why? Because we're communicating all the time, and we've been doing that from, well, around the age of 1 year and continuously until now. But when I ask people how important is communication on a scale from 1 to 10, where 10 is most important, they usually say 10, some say 11. Okay, so it's really important. Yeah, it's really important. So we acknowledge that communication is really important in our contact with other people, no matter if it's private or business, no matter if it's in management terms, or if it's in other departments or company terms, or if it's private. In any relation, communication is really, really important and perceived as important. Then when I ask people, okay, are we equally good as people in communicating? They say no. So it's very important, in some cases 11 on a 10 scale, which is quite important, and we are not equally good. Okay, so what do you do about it? How much time a week do you set aside for training communication then? What do people answer? How do people answer that question? They say, we don't put anything aside. What do you mean training communication? We don't do that. So it's really important you acknowledge that we're not equally good and you're not practicing it or training it. Why? Well, we hope that it will go well. Is that your usual perception, that it's going quite well? Or do we sometimes flunk in communication? Does it go wrong sometimes? Yes, it does. And how to improve? I don't know. So let's see a small communication tool. First, we have a model where you see it overall, and then we'll go a little bit into depth. Overall, you see it as we have something where we send information, which means we give information, we ask questions. This is me taking space and sharing. And then, on the other hand, I have to listen and I have to observe. This is where I receive information and perceive what's been said to me, and I give space. So I take space and give space. Information, question, listen and observe. Let's go into depth. I wrote it in this way so we can see it. Information, questions, listen and observe. So how do we do it? How do we actually use this to be able to communicate better, so that we can both use it as a diagnose, where am I good, where could I be better, and where could I improve, but also to understand the psychological elements behind the communication, just in a couple of minutes. So first of all, we give information. There are two parts of information. The first one is that I can give my own opinion about something. So I can give my own opinion, I can focus a certain area. Something I want to talk about, this is what we're going to talk about, or I experienced this the other day, or something I want to talk to you about is, or do you remember when we were, this is where I share my opinion and focus a certain area, or create a picture in your mind, describe something. That's what I do here. Afterwards, I want to put a question forward. I want to ask you something. There are different ways of asking. Let's just take two of the most obvious ones. We have open questions, where you can answer almost everything. It leads to an open answer. It could be, what do you think about the weather? You can say anything, you can answer anything, and I make it open. Or, how will you solve this task is also an open question. It doesn't lead you into a certain answer. And then you have the leading or the closed, as you probably guessed or knew ahead, questions. So the closed question is where you lead to two different subjects, or to two different answers. It could be one of two. It could be yes or no, or it could be, if I ask you, do you feel good? You can say yes or no. So it's a closed question. It doesn't give you an opportunity to say, how are you, would be an open question. Or a closed one could be, what color do you like the most, blue or red, then I turned it into a closed question. But the open one could be, what color do you like the most? And you can answer anything. So the interesting thing is now that everybody that I talk to know the difference, that there are open and closed questions, but they're not equally good and equally skilled in each one of them. Which one do you think people are better at asking? I don't know what you answered, but if you answered closed, you're right, because there are really, really a lot of people, the majority, huge majority of people who are very, very skilled and trained in asking closed questions instead of open questions. Not because we're not curious, but because we are result-oriented and we are so filled up with our own opinion so that we want to share our own opinion even asking a question. So our own opinion shines through when we ask a question. Don't you think this is funny? Didn't you like this movie? Shouldn't we go to that customer? Is a closed question, but we are so filled up with our own opinion, so it just shines through. So we ask the question, but it's not quite a curious one. If you want to ask an open question, you have to be really curious or wondering. If there's something you wonder about or that you're really honestly curious about, then you will create an open question. So that could be the key. What am I wondering about? What am I curious about? And then you will be able to create several open questions, which gives the other party that you're talking to the feeling that you really want to put their perspective in attention. Then you of course have to listen and observe. Listen is obvious, but what do you have to observe? Observe, you can observe different things. The tone of voice, the mimic, how they use their face, the expression, are they doing like this, or are they surprised, or whatever. You don't know if they're surprised, and you don't know if they're negative just because they do like this with their eyes, but you can ask them. Maybe they got the sun in their eyes, maybe they're wondering about something, maybe they agree. Maybe sometimes when people do like this, you think they're negative or skeptical, but they're not. Maybe they're just relaxed. So you don't know. So when you observe, the key is to ask about what you see. I noticed that you suddenly standing like this. What does it mean? Or tell me what you think. You don't have to mention everything. You just have to ask them to observe something and then ask. Look at the behavior and ask. Don't try to guess what it is. I see that you are skeptical. No, you don't. You think that they're skeptical because they do like this, but it doesn't mean that you're right. It could be something totally different. So when you observe and when you listen to what they say, then afterwards you get up here. Now it's your time to say something. The first you do is not telling your own opinion necessarily. It could be, if you don't want to be very good at communicating and not to violate the psychology between two persons, you want to acknowledge what they just said. So here you show them understanding. Does it mean that you have to agree? No, it doesn't mean you have to agree, but you understand their way of seeing it, and you acknowledge that they have a different point of view. So actually you are matching them, or you are showing them that you understand. You're showing them understanding and supporting them. That's what you do. So how could it sound? It could be, well, I thought that we should meet one of these days to plan the meeting we were talking about. When do you have time? And then they say something, and then you say, yeah, maybe they say, I cannot meet this week because I'm busy. And then you say, okay, I understand you're busy, I know you are. Still, we have to do it because it's the week after, so we have to be on time. When could you find an hour? So this is the way to do it. So if you take this out of the conversation, you will lack some sympathetic part of the conversation. You will lack the sympathy. If you lack this part, you will just ask questions all the time, and it could be really confronting, and they will not know your opinion, so they will get insecure. if you just say, what do you think about our relationship? If you just said that to your partner, could you imagine? What do you think about our relationship? Do you think that it would see possibilities or problems? They probably see problems because they don't know your opinion. So start by sharing some of your opinion and why you're asking. And then put the question forward. If you just say your opinion and don't ask questions, and maybe only close questions to get them to confirm and reconfirm your opinion, then it will be a conversation with power. So don't do that. Try to analyze your conversation and try to see where am I good, where can I be better. My guess is that 80% of this you already do automatically. Find out the 2, 5, 10 or 20% you have to adjust, and then it will be much better in your communication. Hope you can use it and hope that you'll practice. Now you have the ability to practice. Set some time off or just do it, evaluate yourself, and you will for sure be better.